So, scar tissue mobilization. This works really well for C-section scars, for scars on your perineum from vaginal birth, also for any scars that you may have left over from abdominal surgeries previously. The reason you want to work your scar is that up to 2 years past the incision or tear, your body can continue to make scar tissue. People call these adhesions because they stick things together. You can end up having your uterus kind of stuck in place, which can lead to pain during sex. You can sort of stick your bladder in place or your bladder to your uterus, which can contribute to incontinence problems. What happens when you have an incision or a tear and your body is working to heal that spot is that it throws down all sorts of sticky fibrous tissue to close that up as fast as possible. That's its mission, that's its job, and it does it beautifully. The problem is that tissue that gets laid down in the scar, you can see by looking at it, that's a different kind of tissue. And it's really disorganized. It doesn't let a lot of communication through. It doesn't let blood flow through very well. It doesn't let nerves come through very well. It doesn't let your lymph come through very well. And it distorts and confuses communications along your lines of muscle. It interrupts that communication between the top half of your body and your bottom half of your body, which can make it hard to move. And also, if you get that tissue build up and you don't deal with the scar, it actually can mean that when you go to lift your arm up or do certain movements, you get a pulling in that area, and it can be quite uncomfortable. So the idea with the mobilization and the massage work is basically to reorganize those tissues. So by creating lines of tension and pull coming through, in, and around the scar, you're giving your body the message that it needs to actually reorganize that tissue and make it much more functional. Let's get to it. When you're working on your scar, you want to actually work in 3 different depths. So you can work just in the skin layer. You can go just a little bit deeper, and you're hitting into more of the muscle layer. When you start working in these deeper layers, if you're on your back, you want to have your knees bent and your feet on the ground to reduce any muscle tension that will stop your fingers from going deeper. And then the last layer is the deepest, it's the organ layer, and it's often where adhesions start to cause trouble. For working in the skin layer only, you can do this pinch and you kind of lift and roll the skin layer right over top of the scar. And sort of over the edge and into the surrounding tissue. That only works in the skin layer. The following techniques you can work in any layer, the skin, the muscle, or the organ layer. You can push, pull, you can twist, and you can anchor and drag, and I'll show you what those look like. Push and pull. You can do this at any layer, like I said. Position your fingers either right above the scar, on the scar, or below the scar. And you can pull up towards your head, push down towards your feet, or you can drag it sideways or diagonal, or you can start to add in this twist movement, which is super great. It gets all different directions all at once, and it's pretty easy to do. This brings us to the last move, the anchor and drag. So you're going to use one hand to push in and anchor a spot. You use your other hand or knuckle to pull slowly away from that in all different directions. You can use a little bit of lotion if that helps you, but it is better to be moving very slowly apart instead of fast. So if you do use lotion, make sure that you still keep your speed quite slow. And the reason for the slowness is that it gives that tissue more input, it gives it more time to respond. And I often imagine those sort of adhesions as a bit crystally. And when I go slowly over them, I imagine them melting. So like I said before, you can take these last 3 moves, the push, pull, the twist, and this anchor and drag, into the 3 different layers. So the superficial skin layer, the layer underneath that, the muscles, and the deepest layer into the organs. Try all these different moves. They all give different kinds of input. But really, it's this tension and pull that give your body the information that it needs to restructure the tissue here and the cells. So some techniques there for you to work with your scar tissue. I would recommend in the early days, for the first few months, trying to work on it for a couple minutes a day if you can. It doesn't have to be a super long time, but the more frequent the input, the better. And then you can leave off for a while. You can start doing it every few days, every week, every month. Just check back in with it occasionally to see how it's doing. You'll be able to tell as you check in occasionally whether that scar tissue has stopped building or whether it is continuing to build, in which case you want to continue giving it that massage input. Good luck, and I wish you well